Okay, so March, brought the mower out of winter lockdown. It's a Mountfield1328H model. Mower's not starting, as often the case. So what we're going to do today, we've actually got a problem with it. We've got the drive belt gone on this as well. So we've got to get it going first off, and we also need to do the belt on it as well. So okay, so while we set it up on charge so we can get it going later, as I said, on this one, the challenge we have is the cutting belt has gone on it, or is come off. Difficult to know which actually at the moment. They're quite hard to see and get to. So you've obviously got the actual cutting plate here with the blade in, and then back here is your, under there is your belt. There's my belt. My belt doesn't seem broken, but it's very, very loose. So something's come off. Don't know what. But anyway, so what I've done is I've bought a new belt for this. So we'll put a new belt on at the same time, as the whole thing's probably got to come off. Now, I'm not quite sure how you get the back part off, so apologies, I've not done this before, so you'll have to see it as it goes. So we've got to get the back part off. There, from the front perspective, just unwind the camera off here. So bear with this video slightly, because I might have to do it as I go. Right, so what we've got the throttle cable here, which connects in, and you'll see there's some clips here. So we're going to take this one here out, which will allow this to be off. You've then got two brackets. So you've got this first one here. This hasn't got a sort of pin clip on it, so it's going to have to come out one. This nut here is going to have to come off, and then you'll see on the other side, just there is also another pin. So that's on the other bracket holding the cutter on. So you've got two pins basically holding this bracket in, this cutter in place at the front. So you've got this one and this one. So take that pin there out, take this nut here off, and then take this clip here out. And that's the three. That will kind of give the front clearance. And then if we come around here, there's the ducting on the other side is clipped on just up here. Can't see, I'm going to lift the lid up. Just here there's a pin, which will then give freedom there. So, as I said, you need to take this one nut here out in the middle. This is a 13mm. So I've got mine fairly loose now. Okay, so that's coming off there. Okay, so that's a 13mm nut. You've got that. Pull that to one side. Okay, when you pull this up, I'm just going to put this back on the tripod, and then we can pull up. I'll show you how to do the top. Okay, so now I'm going to lift the lid up. So with this one, when it comes up, we need to take, this just unscrews this part of it. Taking that off, that just unscrews off your speed control. On the other side, it will come up, I think. Now you have to take this one off as well. So on your cutter selector, you need to take the second one off as well. So that's those two off now. Just wind this out a little bit so you can see, hopefully a bit easier what's going on. Right, so now you've basically taken out the one here, you've taken off the two caps here. That then allows this to start moving up, I think. Okay. On this side, where the cutter is, I always stand on the right hand side, so the 1 to 7, and then you need to get your arm up there and just hold that up as it comes up. Okay, and that takes the top of it off. Okay, now if I zoom in here, you'll see here now. So looking at the ducting here, here's my 2 pins here and here. These hold this main plate in as well. So I can see now some of my plate. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take out these 2 pins. They're fairly easy. 2 pins there. That should give me a little pin bar. So the pin bar there has just come out. That allows me to remove this ducting piece. So 2 clicks, pin bar comes out, ducting comes off. Set that to the side. Okay, so you can, when you're looking at yours now, I'm kind of by the rear wheel looking in, and you'll see your belt comes through here, and you'll see your belt goes into the engine drive shaft. So you've got your engine, you've got your pulley on the engine directly underneath, and your belt comes around. We'll just draw a diagram in a minute of the layout of that belt, so we can see where that belt goes. Now, in order to get to that belt and see where it's actually come apart or why it's come loose, we're probably going to have to drop this lower cutting deck down, bring it out, and that will allow us basically to see why we can't get why it's come loose. So I'm just going to figure that out, why it's happened, because I've not done this one before. So I need to have a quick look at it. I'll draw a layout of the pulley so I kind of know roughly where it goes, and then I'll show you how I take the deck out and refit the belt. Okay, so next up we're taking out this pin here. There we go, another small pin taken out here by the, I assume it's the selector mechanism, and that should then, I think, pop this out here. There you go, so that's popping this whole mechanism out. It's fairly stiff, it's actually a solid cable, this one, a piece of steel, so that will just sit kind of suspended now to give it a bit more leverage. Next up I'm going to take out this locking nut here. This is a, gosh, that's probably a 17mm. Yep, that's this one here. It's a 17mm locking nut. So we're taking, so you can just see this one here where the spanner is. So just finish it off taking this one here out. And once I've taken this one here off, I'm going to take that pin over there out as well. So okay, so next up we're going to take that pin there out, and that will free up the front part of this cutting deck. Camera there for a moment. So you can help yourself by taking a bit of weight off it. So obviously it is trying to drop down now. Remember, locking nuts are always a bit tighter. Okay, I'm going to lower that back down. And now working on this side, I've got one pin just here on the other side of this decking plate. So I'm going to put the camera down for this one. I'm going to pull this pin out. Okay, so I'm just going to take a bit of weight off that. Okay, so just put a screwdriver in there, just prised up the top of that pin to get that pin there out. Okay, so we've now taken out most of those. Just making a quick note of the order I'm doing these in. So, quick recap, I'm doing it for myself as well. So I've taken out my throttle pin. I've then undone the lock nut on the front of the cutting deck. And I'll share this list with you shortly. And then we've taken out the pin from front of cutting deck. Okay, so this will probably need the pin taking out as well. So you go, there's a pin there, so that needs taking out as well. Okay, so now my deck is actually sat down on the floor. We'll sort of turn our attention now. So I've got the front of the deck now sat on the floor. So actually the front of the engine comes up here. I'd probably see that lift off. So I'll now look at the rear and see what we need to do to take the rear off, to drop the rear. We have got that cable going round the pulley, so at some point you've got to take it off the pulley. I don't know quite which order this has to happen in yet, so we'll figure out as we go here which order exactly it's got to go in. Okay, so I decided to jack mine up. So I think you can get to a lot of this plate, we'll see, without taking the rear off. I don't know how to take the rear off yet. So I've jacked it up. I've just put mine on ramps at the minute. But you'll see now here we've got pretty good clearance of this to be able to undo that nut. And to the drive belt itself, the cutting belt. So I'm hoping we might be able to get to it from here. So I was going to draw the map out for the cutter belt. I'll show you that when I've drawn it out, which path it takes, and then we can look to get the new belt. Got to figure out how to get it in, but hopefully we can get the new belt in without then taking everything else off. But if not, there's probably only a couple more bolts needed to drop the cutting plate down, to be honest now anyway. So yeah, it may not be too bad either way. But anyway, this is a way. I've got access to it for now. Okay, so now we've just got one last pin here attaching the decking actually. So I've got it up on the stand so I can see it a bit easier. But actually it's all moving. I think it's just this one final pin here. So I pull out this clip, take this pin out. That should then allow my decking, my cutter, to drop onto the floor. So I'm going to do that now. Okay, so you probably see here my belt is not actually broken, so I'm not 100% sure. We're going to replace the belt anyway. So now I'm doing this 13mm socket. So undo this. Whilst you're undoing it, you can hold the blade from underneath. It's not that tight. I just basically undid it almost by hand actually. I did a socket on it, but that's now undoing. So my plan is to take this out, and that will allow me to take this pulley off, get the belt out. I'll get this decking out the way, and then I can get to the bottom belt, because I don't quite know yet. That back one looks quite hard to get to. It's got two sort of retainers, very hard to see, but there's a spring there which is like a retainer, and that's stopping it coming off the engine belt drive, so I don't quite know how I'm going to get that out yet. So that's the other one. By the way, I just looked on the user manual for Mountfield, no pattern of how to do this, so unfortunately there was no help on the engine things for Mountfield. So anyway, I'll carry on as we are. Okay, so that's the nut. That's just come off the centre pulley. Okay, so that's my centre pulley nut. Come back round. Okay, so you'll see here now, the nut's missing off the top. I don't know how tight or otherwise this belt pulley is going to be, so I'm going to need to lever this up, see if I can get this basically part of the belt, because this is being stopped at the moment by these riveted bars. Obviously the belt can't pass in between these two, it stops it coming out, so you've got to get this up and off. But I can't get the belt, the whole cutter out. I put my cutter on just a wheelie tray at the minute so I can move it, but at the moment I can't actually even get it out, so I'm still trapped at the moment. So I'm going to pull this pulley off if I can, if it will come off, and once that's out of the way I can pull the decking, the cutter back this way, and then I can try and get to that back belt if possible. So that's the next plan. Okay, so plan B, I've taken my wheelie tray out, I put a towel underneath the cutting deck. I've now cut my belt. This is good. I just couldn't get this off, it's too tight, so I've cut the belt. Hopefully this now finally means that this is free to move, so I can pull it out towards me, and then once it's out I can figure out how to get this off here, because at the moment I can't get it out of here because of these, so I need to get it off this, round this belt somehow, which is the next problem. So anyway, at least when I get the decking out, the cutter out, I can then start to see if I can get this pulley off, get it around this one and that one, and that will allow me to hopefully secure it into place. Okay, so that's the next plan. Okay, so the deck's out now. It's still got one cable connecting it, which is probably a cut-off cable that goes up. In fact, it's the seat trigger cable, so I think that's what that's for. I mean, you could disconnect that if you want to get it all the way out. I've kind of left it here at the minute while trying it back in. I think the next thing is you've got to do, this plastic piece is in the way, so there's 3 8mm bolts, so you'll probably want to take these 3 off. One here, one here, one here. So you've got to take those 3 there off. That'll allow you to lift off this plastic cover. Okay, so on this one, we're going to pick it up, take these 3 screws out temporarily, and put it to one side. So let's put it over here for now, because it's got this cable still through it, so you just take that cable out to get it right out of the way. But it's just so I can get to this assembly. So this is, it's worth noting, this is pushing from the tensioner. So if you try and you'll have to push the tension out of the way to get the tension off the pulley when you turn the pulley. So we need to get the belt on. So the only way to get the belt on here is either to take this off, or you'd have to pass it through there somehow, which looks too tight. So I think the pulley's going to have to come off. Now the question is whether you're going to need a puller, because the puller's got 2 holes there, so you can get it through and pull the pulley off. So you may need a pulley puller to get this off, which is going to be a right pain if so. I'm going to see if I can tap it to get it moving. They can be pretty tight, these pulleys, if they're like a car, so I don't have too much hope I'm going to be able to get that off without a puller. Okay, so plan B, the pulley I don't think it's going to come off without a puller, so I'm going to put it on and push it past these areas. So I think you're going to need to put, I took the plastic trim off so that I could not damage it. So I think next step is to put your plastic trim back on. Don't secure your plastic trim at the moment because you need access. It would cover this part, so leave it loose. Now you want to thread this through the same path it's going to be when it's finished, which is basically there. Okay, so I've threaded it back through, and now what I want to do is pass it through here. Just going to use a screwdriver. This is my tensioner here, so I'm going to put some tension off this, and I'm just going to riddle that into place. Once I've gone past the first piece, so you need to get your first piece in and down if you can. Like that, so the camera can see that. So I've got that past, and now I'm just going to pull on it as if I'm fitting a car tyre. There we go. That gets that past there. And the same here, you can use the lower part of the pulley, that's gone in. And then again the same here. I'm just using the motion of it going and moving. So I just literally use the motion there. Okay, so that's going through there. And then you need to make sure this pulley here comes on this side, because this is the tensioner that tensions it. So it goes through in between here and here. So again, we need to use the motion if we can. I'm giving myself a bit of extra slack. Pretty tight, the tensioner one. I don't know if the tensioner will come off easy with that nut. If it would, fantastic. That will save quite a bit of effort. Would be super. I think it's going. There we go. Okay, good. So with those on, around that tensioner, you go ahead now and put your plastic clips back into place. Sorry, your clips back on to hold the plastic into place. Okay, so now I've pulleys on, goes round here, round the inside of the tensioner. This is my tensioner. Inside of it, and I've got it it's just sticking out now, and obviously that part there is going to go around the pulley inside. Now, go underneath. You'll see here, you can push this up, it's on a spring, so you can push this up, which will allow us access to pull the belt and put it around the belt. So what I'm going to do now then, is I'm going to put the cutting tray back in position, then I will push these up and secure the belt back onto the pulley. So it's going to be a bit tricky to video it, but just imagine this is the belt now. You're going to push these up out the way, and then you're going to just slot your belt over this pulley, and it's going to be a bit fiddly to video, but that's what you're going to do to reattach this again. So I'm going to now put the tray broadly in position, and that will hopefully allow me to do that. Okay, so I've offered the cutting deck up. What I've done now is just in here, you'll see you can get your hand in, you can pull this up and get this side on. So at the moment I've got this side on. I'm going to now go to the other side and work on the other side of the pulley to see if I can do that, because now I can manoeuvre this way a bit. So I'm just really manoeuvring both sides now, so I can try and get to these. So here I am here, there's my other one just in there. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pull this up. You can do it, I think I just did it with my hand actually, it's the easiest way to do it. So one hand pulls it up and the other hand hooks that belt over the pulley. So I need two hands for this one. I don't know if I leave the camera running here, that helps at all. You can see that. So I've got a maneuver this tray slightly round. So basically I've got to get this tray as far across as I can. Apologies if the camera angles are a bit funny here. This one's actually quite tight, so I'm coming up here now. There it is, I can get to that. So now what I need to do is push this up out of the way. So then it's a case of just getting your hands onto this to pull it up. So I'm doing this a bit blind as well, to be honest. I had tried a spanner on it, but to be honest, there we go. Right, so I've got mine up. I've got two fingers on it, and then I'm just trying to slot my belt in. Okay, there we go. And that's it. That one's slotted in there now as well. Okay, I don't know if the camera caught that or not, apart from my grunting. But that's now back in. So we are now back to putting our clips back on for our lowering deck and getting everything back together again. So order wise, I'm gonna lift this up to here, put my locking nuts back on and my pins back on, and then I can see I'm still unsure. I may need to adjust the tension, because I think the reason why mine was not turning was because maybe it was slipping. Obviously I've gone ahead and put a new belt on, but actually it could be the adjuster needs on the belt tensioner, which I think is going to be done by this. So I'm going to put it all back together, then I'm going to test it and see if my belt's turning. If my belt's not turning, then I'm going to adjust here and see if I can get my belt turning through adjustment through this one. So anyway, let's put it back together first, and then we'll worry about the adjustment on it and getting it going. Okay, so we're putting the deck back on. just connected this one here, reconnecting the cutting engager, pin at the bottom. Okay, moving this one over. I'm now going to attach the other side, which has got the pin on it as well. Okay, so now working on this side. A couple of different pins. First one was on here. Now this one had the, remember, 2 washers on this one. You've got a washer which is on the connector, which is on the big connector here. So lifting this blade up, need to come across a bit. That will pop that into there. Then putting the washer on, and then have your pin and put your pin in. Okay, so that's the pin back in. We've got one more at the front here to do. This one was on a pivot and a pin, so I put the bolt in, then put the pin on. It's just up here. It's a bit dark, can't quite see where my pinhole is. Okay, it's my other pin in. So I've done those two, so I've got this on. This is my ducting, remember, which had, here's my ducting. My ducting goes on, it sits on that cage. So this goes over the top, and for this one, again we've got another pin. We slide the pin in. Okay, so the belt's all done. You've just seen me do the belt on this model. I thought I was going to have to adjust the tensioner because it was originally slipping. It's been cutting absolutely fine. I think obviously just the belt's got itself extended and it's just not got the tension on it. Now it's got a new belt on it. It's working absolutely fine. So there you go. So hopefully that helped you. If you've got a similar thing where your belt's been slipping, then you probably need a new belt as well on yours. So hope this video helped you, given I couldn't find anything else anywhere about how to get these Mountfields done. So quick reminder, that's on the 1328H. Thanks for looking.